Hey Jeff, it's Ellen here, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for including me in this special project. I really hope that this goes well. This performance is going to be so sweet. So I'm really excited to get this started with you. So I did send over the PDF that you can print out, so hopefully you have that in front of you, because basically I was thinking I would just kind of go through it and hopefully address any questions you might have. But if you have any other questions after watching this video, please feel free to reach out to me through the Patreon messages and I'll get back to you with any questions that you have. But basically, let's go ahead and just start from the beginning. So I tried to make this as beginner friendly as possible because I know that you said you had just started your guitar journey. I think this song is totally accomplishable fairly soon. The chords are not that hard and things like that, so I'll give you all of the beginner alternatives as well. So starting right at the top, we are going to be in standard tuning, so it's just the regular strings, E, A, D, G, B, E string tuning, and then we're going to put our capo on the 3rd fret, and that's going to let us play really easy open chords, okay? If you don't have a capo, they're fairly inexpensive on Amazon. I think they're just a couple bucks to get one, so I would definitely recommend it. And then we're just going to have 4 chords to play through the whole song. That's going to be our D chord, our G chord, our A chord, and our B minor chord. Now, the B minor is a bar chord, which can be really tricky for a lot of people. So if you're running out of time and you can't seem to get the bar chord down and have it ring out well, something you can do is replace it with a B minor 7. So your pointer finger goes on the 2nd fret of the A string, your middle finger goes on the 2nd fret of the G string, and then your ring finger goes on the 2nd fret of the E string. So essentially we're just like skipping strings with our fingers, and then you play from the 5th string down. In a pinch, that'll work really well in place of the barred B minor. So go ahead and do that if you need, if you don't have time to practice your bar chord shapes. Okay, so those are the chords, and you might have seen G before as a 3-finger G chord, but I'm gonna show it to you as a 4-finger chord because this note here is really gonna make a big difference when we go from one chord to the other. It's pretty subtle, but it does sound a lot more like how they play it in the music video that I was watching. So if you can, try to do both versions of G. We're gonna go from our 4-finger G, and then either take off your ring finger, or you can go from here and just take off your pinky and then move your ring finger down. Whichever one's easier, but we do want to try to play both versions of G, and you'll see when I go through this song how you can like kind of hear a little bit of a difference between those 2 versions of G. Okay, so that is the chords. Now let's move on to the strumming. So I was watching the music video for this, and he kind of varies up his strumming a lot, which is totally typical with a lot of musicians. So this is where you get to shine. I'm put on the paper here the main strumming rhythm, which we're gonna count in a triplet rhythm. So basically, instead of more of a rigid like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we're gonna count 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a. It should sound kind of dancey, a little bit like waltz-like. So if you can kind of get that count in your head, and we're just counting to 3. So it's 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a, back and forth like that. If you can get that count in your head, we're going to strum down on the count, so 1, 2, and 3, and then we're gonna strum up on the like the and part, okay? So by doing this, we're going to accomplish more of a bouncy rhythm and less of a rigid sounding rhythm. So we're gonna go 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a, okay? And so for this strumming rhythm, what I've done is take out the last little up strum from the first beat. So we have all together 1, 2, a 3, a 1, 2, a 3. Hopefully you can hear how that up strum is almost leading into the next down strum, so maybe try to think of it like that, but you want to accomplish this really easygoing kind of like waltzy dance kind of rhythm, and so counting it with triplets is how we're going to accomplish that, okay? So again, the strumming rhythm is 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down. All right, and we're going to do that 2 times per chord for the entire song. Okay, so that is strumming. I have a note on the bottom there that says to feel free to adjust strums whenever you like. In the video, sometimes he'll kind of hold out the 1 and the 2. He'll be like 1, 2, 3, or like sometimes he'll add strums, 1, 2, 3. So this is just kind of the basic strumming pattern. Feel free to play around with it, add strums where you like, take away strums where you like. If you're going to sing on top of playing, then I think as long as you keep that kind of beat going, then it really doesn't matter what strums you're doing, as long as they, maintain that kind of waltzy feel. So if you have more questions about strumming, just let me know, but it's fairly straightforward. If you do need more structure and you're like a structure kind of person, just go with what I've written here on the paper. It sounds great for the whole song, okay? Okay, so now that we've talked about chords and strumming, let's go to the bottom of that first page where I talk about chord frills. Now this is a little bit more advanced, so if you run out of time, you could totally play through the song without adding any of these at all. But if you have plenty of time to practice and you want to try, I do think it sounds really cool and it dresses up the song a lot. So let's go ahead and start with our D chord. Something you can do that sounds so much like the original song is you take off your middle finger, and that's your D suspended 2. Okay, do you hear the difference? So when you do that, especially at the very beginning of the song and any instrumental breaks, it's really important if you can lift off your middle finger to do that, because it changes around like how the chords sound. So we have, right? Now watch what happens when I lift off my middle finger. Do you hear how it just kind of dresses up the song? It sounds a lot like the original. So what I'm doing with that D chord frill is I'm starting with the D suspended 2 on the first beat, and then I'm hammering it on as it rings. You have to do it fairly hard for it to be audible. So if you're a very beginner and you don't have any calluses built up yet, it can hurt sometimes. So just make sure to practice without it at first until you build up your calluses, and then add it in. Like this should be the last thing that you add in as you're practicing, okay? So our D chord. All right, so I'm doing it on the first beat of the first round, and then on the second beat of the second round. All right? And then going on to our G chord, this is kind of what I was talking about with the chords. We have our 4-finger G, but if you lift off your ring finger or, play it like this, we have that open B string. And so what we want to do is we're going to play the 4-finger G on the first round, then our 3-finger G for the second grouping, before we head back to our D. Okay, so that's basically the intro to the song. So with the frills, it would be like 4-finger G, 3-finger G, other thing you can do with the G chord, I didn't write this down, so this is something totally optional. I do find myself doing it sometimes though. You can actually add a frill with your pointer finger. So on our G chord, if you take off your pointer finger, and then you can do that same thing like we did with the D chord, where you hammer on your first finger. All right, this one's a little more subtle as well. But if you want to add that in, I think that sounds good too. So with the D chord frill and the G chord frill at the beginning there, it would be like D sus. Then our 4-finger G. Switch to your 3-finger G. Hammer on. Back to D. All right. All of this is totally optional, so if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're running out of time to be able to add this, don't worry about it. Just don't even worry about it. But it is something cool you can do that sounds good. The last one is our A chord frill. It's going to be really similar to our D. We have our A chord like this. If you take off your ring finger, that's our kind of more open-ended A suspended 2. And again, we're just going to hammer on our ring finger. It can be, again, very subtle if you don't have enough finger strength. So again, don't worry about any of this if it's too much, but when I like to add that in is during the choruses. We go from G to D to A back to G. So when I do that, I go G twice to D twice to A. All right, so hopefully you heard that little frill. It's on the first beat of the second measure back to G. So now that we've kind of gone through everything, hopefully I talked through everything. Let's look at the actual playthrough now. If you look at some of these symbols, they mean different things. It's just my way of like telling you what my suggestions are if you have time to practice it this way. And in the bottom right corner, you should see like a little table. So basically that little tilde, like squiggly line thing, just means those are chords that I think if you add the frill in, if you can, it sounds really good on those chords. So those are on the D and the A. And then the G, that's just regular G, is going to be our 4-finger G. And then the G's with the little asterisks next to them are going to be our 3-finger G. That was just my way of distinguishing them for you in the play along part. And then the parentheses, so you'll see kind of like throughout, there are some places where I have chords in parentheses. That confuses people sometimes. Basically what that means is you're gonna go to your next chord on that word. So for example, let's look at the first chorus. That very last D is in parentheses. You're gonna switch to D on the word room, but then if you see the next line is the break and that starts with a D, those are the same D, okay? It's gonna be the same 2 measures there, but basically like it's in the next phrasing group of notes, but we want to start it on the word room. So essentially, you can just play it where the parentheses chords are, but just remember that the next chord after that, that's the same measure. So don't play those chords twice. You just want to play it once for that grouping. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through the last line of the chorus. We're starting with our B minor. You have B minor, down, up, twice. To G, twice, walk in a room. Okay, we're changing to our D on the word room, but we're looking at the next line. Walk in a room. So we're on the break now. G, still on the break. G with 3 fingers. To D, all right? So hopefully that makes sense. Just basically the parentheses chords are the same as the next chord that you see. So don't play it twice, just play it once. Hopefully that makes sense. So those are the symbols. And yeah, I think that's basically it. So once you get all of this down, my suggestion for practicing for you would be, first of all, to get those chords memorized and then make sure you can transition between them. I think I have practice with me transitions for most of these chord pairings, not the B minor, but for the rest of them, I think I have most of them, so check out my channel if you need that, or you can do it on your own. Just use a metronome and make sure that you can get those chord transitions right. Once you get them up to speed, then what I think you should do is go through the entire song and just do a single downstrum as you sing through the song. A lot of people skip this step, but I think it's really important if you are going to be singing this as your performance. It helps people line up like what you're singing when those chords are changing. It can actually be a little harder than it sounds if you're not super familiar with the song. So this will really show you like where are like problem areas that maybe you're not sure how the singer matches with the chord changes, things like that. So I'd really highly suggest doing that first. And then if you go through that, no problem. Then at that point, I would add in the full strumming pattern and then play through the whole song until you get that really well under your fingers. And then on top of that, we'll add the singing last. And then once you can play through the whole song with the singing, like in tempo with the original song, or here with me at the end of this video, I'll go through the song with you. That's when you'll want to add the chord frills last, just as a little cherry on top. But if you run out of time, you can just play the regular chords without the frills and that regular strumming pattern that I've written down, and that'll sound great too. So let's go ahead and go through this song. I'm just gonna go through what it would sound like through the intro, verse 1, and the chorus without any singing. And then I'm going to start over and then we're going to sing also so you can hear what it sounds like all together, because I imagine you wanted to sing this as well as play it, right? So This is how it sounds from the beginning. We've got our D, and then it would start over. So that's what it sounds like with just the guitar part. Now let's go ahead and go through the whole song. And again, after we play through this, if you have any questions, just let me know. But this is how I would suggest playing through this song. All right, so that's just kind of a quick playthrough. Like you might have noticed, my strumming pattern wasn't always the one that I wrote down. Sometimes when I do those frills, I like to just go down, 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 up as the whole pattern. This is all stuff that you will probably feel naturally once you get all of the chords and everything down. So whatever your body is kind of telling you to play, I would 100% just go with what that feels like, whatever you're feeling, like as you're feeling the music. If you add extra strums, like who cares, as long as it's making it on the beats, you should be good to go. So that's something that I did notice I was doing. The other thing is sometimes when you're singing and playing, it can be really difficult to keep track of everything, especially if you don't have enough practice into it. So what I was doing through this playthrough is I was only adding those chord frills in during those instrumental breaks where I had brain power to think about it. So if that's something that, you know, is helpful for you, then just add those chord frills in wherever you're not singing, if that helps you sing better. It still sounds really great to the listener if you're going to perform this like at the wedding or at the reception or anywhere like that. I think it'll be really good for the audience. It'll sound so good. So I think that's all of my advice for you on this one. I'm really excited that you're going to be doing this. I think it'll be such a lovely surprise. Please let me know how it goes afterwards. I think that it will be just so sweet. Yeah, I guess like I said earlier, if you have any questions about anything on the guide or anything with the playthrough or anything, just feel free to message me anytime and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But I hope that this guide and this video was helpful for you. Good luck on learning this. I know you can do it. It's gonna sound so great and it's gonna be so beautiful at the wedding. So yeah, thanks again, and I'll hopefully talk to you when you tell me how it goes. Bye.